Hello, friends. Even though I have lived in the South my entire life, I did not know about resurrection ferns. Now, I've seen them and admired them for many years, especially when I lived in Charleston and could see those branches of the live oak trees just covered in this verdant, frothy ferns. But I didn't know what they were called, and I didn't know they had a secret superpower of seeming to be dead and then coming back to life. Hello, I'm Dr. Renee Harmon. I'm the author of Surfing the Waves of Alzheimer's. It's a memoir about my husband Harvey and his time with younger onset Alzheimer's disease. In these weekly blog posts and video posts, I most often talk about caregiving for persons living with Alzheimer's disease or other dementias. But sometimes I also bring in things that I've learned from nature, and today is one of those, more of a nature-inspired post. So when I bought my new house about 5 years ago, I noticed two little patches on the trunks of two different Japanese magnolias that had little ferns on them. There were about 4 or 5 fronds of this delicate fern, and it was just delightful. A few days later, they were dead. And I thought, oh well, at least I got to see those beautiful little ferns. I don't know what happened to them, but they died. Well, a few days later, they were back. And then I would notice sometimes they were dead, sometimes they seemed to be alive. And I was very confused, and I decided just to pay attention and see if I could figure out what was going on. And sure enough, during times when we didn't have much rain, the fronds would shrivel up and turn brown and look dead. But after a rainfall, a few hours later, they would perk up and be their delightful verdant green color again. It was my friend Sonia, a professional photographer, who told me that these were resurrection fern. She was working on a project photographing trees that had been used as lynching trees throughout the state of Alabama. And she was looking for a particular tree in Harpersville, Alabama. She was told that this tree had died and had fallen, but it hadn't yet been cleared. And when she found the tree, it was covered in resurrection fern. What a powerful contrast. Resurrection amidst unspeakable pain and brutality. So I researched resurrection ferns. They are actually true ferns. They reproduce with spores, not seeds. And these resurrection ferns are termed epiphytes, though that's a term for plants that get their nourishment through the air. Spanish moss is another epiphyte. So they do have roots, but the roots aren't used to bring up nourishment from the soil. The roots on these resurrection ferns only serve to attach it to the substrate, to the tree or the rock that it's living on. And I've seen these resurrection ferns in my neighborhood now that I'm paying attention. They're in the branches of the older trees, and I've seen them on my hikes in the forest on tops and sides of boulders. And they don't actually die. So in periods of drought, the fern will curl in on itself, and its undersurface is now covering the fern as it's curled in. And in this way, they have lost up to 95% of their water content. Now that's remarkable, because plants will die if they lose more than 10% of their water content. And it's estimated that these resurrection ferns can live in that desiccated state for about 100 years. And when it does rain, there's a system of pores on the undersurface, which is now the outer surface, draws in the water and pumps it throughout the leaflets of the fern, and it unfurls and uncurls and returns to its beautiful green color. What if, in times of spiritual drought, we could turn into ourselves and expose our vulnerability? in times like that, reviving water can flow through us. And those reviving waters might be in the form of an understanding friend, or a timely book or quote, or a revelation or epiphany during a time of meditation or prayer. I know I have had times where I felt shriveled up and dead inside, deplete of all my nourishment. Caregiving can do that to us, as can many of life's burdens. But when we curl in on ourselves, though we are protecting those tender parts of ourselves, that shell we form doesn't let in the spiritual nourishment that we need. Sometimes we need to expose our wounds so that we can be resurrected. Thank you. Be well and keep your balance.